Hey, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Hugh. I'm a growth consultant. I work with a lot of online coaches. Worked with over 700 coaches now in the last 8 years. My background was actually health coaching. Grew a six-figure health coaching business online back in 2016, 2017, before actually getting a job for my business mentor for a year, where I worked with over 500 clients in the online coaching space. And then in 2018, left that to pursue my own business. So over the last 6 years, I've been doing a kind of hybrid of coaching, consulting, and agency work. Work with some of the biggest personal development brands and personal development coaches in the industry, especially in Australia, and a couple in the US. And I've also worked with a lot of beginners, and I've worked with people who are just trying to sign their first few clients. I've worked with people who are trying to go from like kind of 5 to 10 to 20. But the conversation that's coming up again and again with people I'm having at the moment, especially on Instagram, and also, the clients that I'm working with, is like they want to hit 20K a month consistently. And that resonates with me because back in 2016, when I first hit 15K a month, that was amazing. Like when I first hit 10K a month, I was living in a house share in Australia. I just moved to Australia. I was living in a house share. I was single. I had like no responsibility basically. And so my personal expenses were very, very low. And I was able to reinvest back into my business. I was just throwing money left, right, and center. I was buying things that I probably didn't need to buy in my business, upgrading equipment when I probably didn't need to, building out and working with branding companies. I remember spent like $5,000 on a website, which I definitely didn't need and probably didn't really utilize. And then fast forward a couple of years, I had met my now fiance, getting married in a couple of months, and we had moved to the Netherlands. So she quit her job to study her master's in the Netherlands, which, if you're not aware, is a very expensive country. And I'd gone from living in a house share, so sharing rent with other people, to now us renting a 2-bed flat in a very expensive country. And that kind of just showed me that what I was making at the time just wasn't enough. And after, tax and, paying for ads and paying for mentors, like I was still investing very heavily in mentorship as well. I needed to make more than 10K a month. Like it just wasn't enough. And so that seems to be a common story, especially with people who have families and potentially their partner isn't working or they're taking some time off. I've had quite a few clients like that lately, where it's like they need to provide and not just survive, but like really provide and thrive as a family. They want to travel, they want to do fun stuff. Like that for me has always been my story. Like I'm not super flash. Like I don't care about having a Lamborghini or a Rolex, but I do enjoy traveling. Me and my partner have traveled all over the world. It's something that we really value. We move around a lot. And, as of making this video, we're back in Australia. But like for me, that's my kind of personal driver behind finances. And so I just want to start with that because it's really important to kind of understand like why you want to hit 20K a month. Like it shouldn't just be this goal you set for yourself for the sake of it. It should be meaningful for you and have a reason behind it. If you're living in a really cheap country, you don't have loads of expenses, maybe this goal isn't that meaningful for you. So prerequisite for this training, before we get into it, this really is for people who have one-to-one clients. You've got a few case studies under your belt, and more than likely you are the transformation you're selling. Like you have achieved the result that you are selling for other people, because that's going to really help fuel everything we talk about in this. If you're brand new, you've never had a client before, this training isn't for you. This isn't going to be useful for you. Like my recommendation is to go and help some people for free, build some case studies, and then you can come back to this or something similar, because that's exactly what I've done. I've transitioned from health coaching to business coaching, but I didn't just like pick a niche and then start selling people. I worked for free for a long time and got a lot of experience under my belt before I actually ended up charging for stuff. So everything I've always done has always been like get case studies first and then build it out from there. So let's start by understanding where and why you are stuck. So for a lot of people, they get stuck in this kind of roundabout. Maybe sometimes they make some months they make 5K, sometimes they make 10K, but they're not able to make this jump to like 20K a month. And another reason why 20K a month is a really good price, a really good kind of point to hit in your business, is because you have a lot more free cash flow to reinvest back into your business to keep it sustained and growing, right? If you're at like 5K a month, sometimes you're like 1 or 2 bad months away from having to get a job, right? I've been in that position a couple of times over the years. Like I remember when COVID hit, my business went to zero and I was like, fuck, I need to make things happen. Otherwise, again, this is when I was living in the Netherlands. I'm like, I can't provide. I don't know what we're going to do. I couldn't just get a job because everything was locked down and I didn't speak Dutch. So for me, I had to it was like make or break and I had to make it work. And luckily I did. But it was really, really stressful. And, I never want to be in that position again. So having systems in place that I'm going to talk about in this video are going to help you not just get to 20K a month, but sustain it. And then that becoming your new foundation to grow from. So I've worked with a lot of clients at the multi-7 figure, even 8-figure mark. And they all had a similar approach to what I'm going to talk about right now. Like even before I worked with them, they did similar stuff. I just want to kind of start with this case study of my client Josh, he's from the Sunshine Coast in Australia. Really great dude. He's a meditation and mindset coach. And when we started, or just before we started, he was doing kind of like 5 to 10K a month. But it was inconsistent, right? He didn't really have like a lot of marketing systems, and so he was sustaining his business just because he was good at what he did, and he was getting referrals and word of mouth, which is obviously that's a really amazing starting point. He was selling one-to-one. He didn't really have a clear and concise offer. His messaging was a little inconsistent and his growth had stalled. And I don't have a screenshot of when we started, but right now he's about 7,000 followers on Instagram. I think he was about 2,000 when we started. And whilst I'm not someone who cares massively about like Instagram followers, the main thing here is that like these followers are being grown using this system and they're engaged followers that are helping him grow his business. So I had a check-in call with him the other day, and he's, even after working together, our initial working block together, he's still, he's progressing, right? He's doing over 20K a month, and he's selling a group coaching offer. So he's not just over doubled his business, but he's done that in a way where he's now selling group coaching. So he has more free time. He has a very young daughter. She's 1 year old. And he spends a lot of time with her, spends a lot of time with his wife. He's down at the beach. He's doing, working on his health. He's working on other things outside of business. He has flexibility because he's selling a group coaching offer and he's not, on calls 14 hours a day or anything crazy. He's got really powerful messaging. Like when you go through his content, like it is really good content, really good quality content. Not just in terms of like how it looks, but just the message that he is sharing. It's authentic and it's powerful. His personal brand is growing, as I talked about in the numbers, and he's consistently getting 10 calls booked each week. So he's got consistency, and most of all, he's got predictability. Like he knows his numbers now. He didn't have like any control or any understanding of his numbers before we started, and that's a really important part of this. And this is just like a cool side note, but the other day, or I think maybe last week, he just bought a Tesla. So that was really cool to see. And going into this now, like you probably see other people succeeding. Maybe you've seen people like Josh or other people, or even watch my stuff. And then there's a few things like usually, and it's the case for any kind of result, right? Like if you see someone who's shredded, like you probably just look at the surface level stuff, like, oh, what's their morning routine or what's their diet, right? It's the same in business. Like we often look at the tip of the iceberg. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And what that looks like is we look at someone's ads and maybe we try and copy their ads. We look at their funnels. Maybe we try and copy their funnels. Oh, they're running a webinar. Maybe I should run a webinar. You see someone running a free challenge. Maybe I should run a free challenge, right? And you don't know why they're running it, and you don't really know the strategy behind it. Offers, right? Sometimes you see people and they're running all these low ticket offers, and you're like, oh, maybe that's the thing that's going to help me break through. But like a lot of the guys that are running low ticket offers successfully are crushing it already. Like they're already at 50, 100K a month. They're not at 10K trying to get to 20K. And so it's not relevant for you. Content, right? Content's super important. But if you're just copying what other people are doing, and especially I see this a lot of like reels where you see stuff's trending and you just try and recreate it, like that doesn't work for signing clients. Like, yes, you can get views, but you're not necessarily going to get views with the right people. And it's definitely not going to be the kind of content that attracts buyers into your business. And pricing, again, like this kind of ties into the low ticket thing, but you see what other people are doing. You're like, oh, maybe my price is too high. Maybe I need to like lower it. Maybe I need to change stuff. And we will talk about pricing and we'll talk about all of these things in this training because some of this is important. But a lot of this is the tip of the iceberg, and it's not what's going on below the surface. So this is what you don't see, which is personal brand, right? It's the foundation, because I see a lot of people that run ads, and I speak to people all the time, and even people go through some of my trainings. They're like, I tried to run ads and it didn't work. And I look at their stuff and I'm like, well, you don't have a personal brand. Like, you're running ads to your Instagram account and there's like barely any content there, or the content shit because you're just rehashing stuff. I mean, I don't I don't say that to people, but like, you can tell where people have not shared their own insights, their own stories. They're just like copy and pasting. All the worst ones, like Chat GPT. Like, Chat GPT is not going to grow a personal brand. And I don't want to go on too much of a caveat. I could do a whole video on this, but like, I have not used Chat GPT to create one piece of content ever, or write ad copy, because it's soulless. And the whole premise of this is, especially with coaching, people buy people. And if you are not showing up as an actual human being, that shows. Like, people aren't dumb. People pick up on that. And so it's super important that you share your personality. Client acquisition, this isn't one thing. This isn't one ad. This is a system, a process. And I'll go into the depths and details of that in this video. And then client model as well. This is important to understand. So if we break it down into these kind of 6 pillars, within personal branding, it starts with self-leadership, right? Starts with self-leadership. And this really is understanding that you are committed to the journey of self-improvement and leadership, making improvements and staying focused each day, right? There's a couple of things there. Like, if you want to lead others, right? You want to have a group coaching program. That means you need to lead others effectively. And for you to lead others effectively, you have to lead yourself effectively. If you're telling people to do stuff and you're not doing it yourself, you are a hypocrite, and people are not going to pay attention, right? And people pick up on that. I've seen that before in health coaching. I've seen people talk about, maintaining their health and whatnot, and then they're out of shape themselves. It's like, you got to live by example. You can document that on social media. You can show people what you do. Have a clear vision, mission, and values set out to act as your North Star on why you're building this program and why you're growing it with people, right? It's not just about you making money. Like, your business does not exist for you to make 20K a month. Let's get that clear. Like, your business exists to solve a problem in the market and help people. And specifically with coaching, it's to help them achieve a transformation. That's super important to understand, right? Like, making 20K is a byproduct of the good work that you're doing. So I'm someone who is very much driven by an impact metric. Like, for me, I actually don't care that much about the financial goal. I don't actually look at that very often at all. I actually have just a impact goal, which is like, I want to help, this year in 2024, my goal is to help at least 50 coaches hit 20K a month, right? Because I know what that does for them. And so your impact goal should be around the results that you want to get for your clients as well. How many clients do you want to help, and what result do you want to help them get? And for me, I also, a big part of this is also seeing the results that my clients get as well. Like, that for me is really rewarding. And lastly with this, becoming a person of substance. Personal branding requires personality. And if you are not showing up and sharing your values, your insights, your beliefs, your stories, you're just sharing how-to videos, people aren't going to pay attention. And they're not going to buy into you because they've probably heard it all before. And you're just noise in the marketplace. So it's really important to actually share substance. It's the biggest block for a lot of people. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to share stuff. But it's people by people. And if I think about my own journey as well over the years, like, that's one thing that has always served me well. I remember I started creating videos 10 years ago when I was an in-person personal trainer in the UK. I was working with a business mentor, and I went on it was like a vulnerability challenge or something. And I just had to go live on Facebook and share a video every day. And I just talked about like a lot of personal stuff. And I just kept that going for years and years and years. Like, I've posted hundreds, if not thousands of videos across different platforms over the years. And that has always just built a lot of depth. So anytime I sign a client, the thing I hear over and over again when I jump on a call with someone for the first time is they're like, oh, it's funny, I feel like I already know you. Right? That's what you want when you speak to someone. You don't want them to be jumping on with, loads of hesitation and it's just hard, right? Like, doing the hardcore sales thing, it's not It's not what coaching is about. People buy people, and so you need to show the actual person behind your knowledge. Next, within the personal brand, element is magnetic messaging, and what I mean by that is your messaging, when done right, should repel the wrong people. Like your content specifically should be boring for like 99% of people. Let that sink in. It should be boring for 99% of people, but it should be really engaging for that 1% of people. And that's what's going to allow you to create clients. Like, social media can be a bit of a mind fuck, because you see people with like millions of followers or even tens of millions of followers, and you're like, see the content they put out, and it can be like really vague and really broad. And you're like, oh, like if I create content like that and I go viral and my brand blows up, that's what's going to help me grow my business. But it's not, right? It's not. It's these things, especially if you're doing high ticket, because I've actually worked with quite a few big names in the industry who have tens of millions of followers and they still struggle with sales because they've not necessarily got some of these processes in place. Right? I remember about 6 years ago, I was working with this guy. He was a fitness coach, and I think he had about 2 million followers on Instagram, and he was just selling an ebook. And he was making barely any money. Like, he was making like 5K a month, right? Which, when you have 2 million followers, is not a lot, right? It just wasn't a sustainable business for him. And what we did is we got really dialed in, and we're like, well, look, if we get really specific on your messaging, because it was just really broad about weight loss, we got really specific on the messaging. This guy was absolutely shredded. That's one of the reasons why I had such a big audience, because he, was in incredible shape. Got really dialed in on the messaging, got really dialed in on the offer, made a high ticket offer that was only applicable for a small part of his audience. And he had a lot of fear there, because he was like, oh, I built this massive audience and like, I don't want to let people down. I'm like, well, look, you've got all your free content that can help them. You still have that $50 ebook if they want it. And he crushed it. Like, it was like one of the fastest successes I've ever seen. I think he did about 50K in the first month of launching that. And he hired like 5 salespeople, and he just ran at it, and he absolutely crushed. Like, he just killed it. So really good example of like getting the foundations right. And especially when you already have an audience, like, it doesn't have to be huge like his. Like, I've worked with a lot of people that have like 1,000 followers or like a few hundred people on their email list, and they're able to make sales really quickly just by getting some of this stuff dialed in. Cool. So next we have client acquisition, and that's the main thing that I'm going to be diving into after this, because I know that's the juice that everybody wants, and it is usually the gateway for a lot of people just getting momentum. And right now, if you're a bit stuck and you feel like your kind of feet are like stuck in the mud and things are like heavy and harder than they need to be, client acquisition is going to help you, because like, it doesn't matter, how many qualifications you have. The thing that's going to get you better at coaching is signing clients. And that's probably going to feed back into some of this stuff as well. So first of all, relationship-based marketing. Keyword here, relationships, right? We are not in the market of churning and burning leads. Like, we don't do direct response. And I'm going to get into that as well, because direct response marketing only works for specific types of offers. Like, if you are selling products, if you are selling things that are more, like quick buys, direct response marketing can work well. Doesn't work very well for coaching, right? And especially in 2024, like, those kind of like webinar funnels don't work very well, right? People's buying behaviors have changed since COVID. Like, I had a couple of businesses I worked with that we grew from zero to, one of them got up to close to $70,000 US a month just doing webinar funnels during COVID. And the reason being is because everybody was at home. A large part of the market was in the US. They're getting these surplus checks. They had all this cash. They didn't know how to spend it. And so it was very, very easy to make sales them. It was very easy to get people to show up to webinars. The lead costs were cheap because less people were actually advertising. And in 2 years, like, we crushed it. But when COVID stopped, that became less effective. And he actually ended up stepping out of that business, right? Because things just got too hard. So things change, and you need to adapt with that. And the biggest thing is relationships. Like, if you can build a relationship at scale with people, that's really good. And you can do that in a few ways. Like, sometimes it's one-to-one and having actual conversations in Messenger and calls, but you can also do that in your content, right? And again, that ties back into the kind of messaging piece of like, if you're sharing something of substance, then that builds relationships with people as well. And ultimately, what we want to have is a process to generate new leads each day. Specifically growing your Instagram account, really big on kind of Instagram as like the front end of your marketing. Grow your email list, and additionally your YouTube channel. That doesn't have to be something you have straight away. I work with a lot of people that don't have that straight away, and it's something they add in later. And I will talk about that in this video as well, because that can be a crucial piece. But even for me, like my YouTube channel has been like, I've got like less than 200 subscribers, but it is a crucial piece in my marketing because I always send videos to people whilst I'm in, if I'm in conversation or an email, like I will send them to videos. And there's like some old videos I've had like for 8 months that have been like just recircling and actually are my lead magnets as well. Like if someone opts into an ad for a lead magnet, I have a crash course, which you can see on my YouTube channel, but like I just send them that link as the lead magnet. And then the ability to turn strangers into clients, know your numbers, and have control over your growth, right? So many coaches just get overwhelmed with like tracking the numbers. It doesn't have to be complex. Like I've got a pretty simple process for just tracking your numbers each week, especially when it comes to running ads. Like you need to kind of know what you're spending, what's coming in, what's coming out, right? You need to know your inputs and your outputs. It's the same like if you're trying to lose weight and you're overweight, and the two things that you can track, it doesn't matter what people say. Like people will tell you to do a carnivore diet or do like low carb, high carb, whatever. Like the thing that is going to get you results is measuring your food and measuring yourself, because you can then directly see like what you've got going in, your input, and your output being your weight, right? So those are the two ways you lose weight. And obviously strategically, there's loads of different ways you can do that, right? You can do intermittent fasting, you can go vegan, whatever. Like there's loads of different ways you can lose weight, but without those two things, you don't have accuracy and you don't know what's working. And same thing here, it's data. It's like understanding your numbers gives you results consistently, and it gives you control, it gives you a sense of control. A lot of people don't want to look at the numbers, but what can I say? Like that's super important. Next is a transformational offer, right? So we're doing all this marketing, we're getting people in, we're building relationships. We need to send them to something, right? People don't, it's very, very rare someone's just going to message you and say, hey, I really want your coaching. Can I sign up with you, right? Like never happens. The other thing as well is like when people are like, oh, click the link in my bio, and it's like, there's a link to Calendly. Very rarely are people just going to click that. You have to have an offer, and it has to be a transformational offer, meaning they become someone new from working with you. They overcome the old person who they are now, has all these problems, has all these challenges, has all these negative emotions, most likely. And the transformation, who they become through your offer and your program, then they become a new person, right? Like when you shift your identity, everything else shifts as well. And, they probably want to be successful in whatever it is you help them with. So that's really important to understand. And having one offer, right? If your goal is 20K a month, you don't need 5 offers, you need one offer, because that gives you focus on promoting one thing. If you're trying to promote like 5 different things, it is draining. Like I've been there, it's really tiring. Like even when a couple of years ago doing 50, 60K a month, we had like 3 different offers in the business, and it was just exhausting because we're fulfilling on different things, we're trying to market and sell different things, and it just wasn't sustainable and it fell apart. So you need to have one offer, and that is going to, this one transformational offer that's going to feed into your program. Next, in terms of client model, you've got your hero program and world-class delivery. Your hero program is just a streamlined process for creating results. And it's just having a program people want to be a part of, right? Over time, you might develop the name of that where people actively seek it out. It takes time to build up brand recognition, but I've worked behind the scenes on a few businesses that have done this really, really well. And that's exactly what, my client Josh, for example, who I showed you before, has done. Like his program's called the Conscious Creator. Really cool. People want to be a part of it. And same with a lot of my other clients. Like they've built programs where over time people have like heard the name and they want to find out more. But it doesn't start out like that. Like it starts out with, people who just want to work with the coach. And even though you have a set program, this is really important to understand. Just because you have modules or you have a program structure doesn't mean that it has to be group. Like I would start out selling it one-to-one, and then you can always add a group in later, and the syllabus doesn't change, right? The process and the transformation doesn't change. The only thing that changes if you go from one-to-one to group is that the proximity to you and the access to you is different. But even then, I know people who have scaled where, and some of my past clients where they've scaled and they haven't got rid of the one-to-one, they have personally just stepped out of it and they've hired a coach to take that over for them. So it's like the offer just didn't change. It was just that they weren't delivering the one-to-one. Lastly, world-class delivery. Kind of just touch on this a bit, but like, you want to have a turnkey of results, retention, referral. So once you're getting good results, this has honestly been the backbone of my business for the last 6 years. Like I have really, really high retention. Like some of my clients have paid me over 6 figures because they've just stayed with me for years or worked with me on and off for like 5-6 years. And I've had a ton of referrals just because I go above and beyond. And like, although I talk a lot about marketing and client acquisition, like, because this is like my bread and butter, like my mindset and where my head is at 90% of the time is just thinking about clients. And I would say I'm actually quite lazy in my own marketing because most of my time and energy is focused on clients. Like that's super important to understand. Like if you are not getting referrals, you have low retention, this is going to be very, very stressful. And coaching in general is going to be very, very stressful. So you need to look at how you're getting results. All right. And there's 2 aspects to this. There's results, but there's also experience, right? Because, sometimes results can be slow with people, but if somebody just really likes working with you and they feel like they're progressing, like maybe they've not got the tangible result yet that they're after, but they're noticing themselves change, they're getting some internal shifts, like chances are they're going to really enjoy the experience. Like that's good. The other aspects of this ties into your marketing as well, because when you have a program that's based around, a singular outcome and a transformation, then people know about that and they refer people to you. I've had referrals from people that have never even worked with me. They've just known me as like the ads guy, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I've heard Hugh's really good at ads. You should reach out to him." And then that person's become a client, and it's nuts. It's just because I've built this rapport and my skill set. So let's kind of dive into some details now. So I want to focus on client acquisition, as that's going to be the primary problem for you to solve to get to 20K a month consistently. It's the biggest thing I focus on, although I talk about a lot of stuff here. Like the 80-20 of what I do is based around client acquisition. Like I am an ads person, really big on ads, really big on content and copywriting. And so that's what I really want to dive into here. So there's a problem when you rely on organic marketing for client acquisition, and it is that it is very slow, it's unpredictable, and also you don't always know if it's working, because sometimes people will sign up to work with you because they just like you and they've followed you for years and they'll just buy anything you have. That's the truth, right? There's sometimes people will just buy what you have, doesn't matter what it is, they just want to work with you, and your offer might not be very good. You've just built a relationship with that person. When you run ads, you fast track that stuff and you find out if your offers are good or not. And the reason I've got these 3 guys here who you'll probably recognize, you've got Sam Ovens, Alex Hormozi, and Frank Kern. These guys all grew with paid ads and they built a brand off the back of it, right? Like Hormozi especially is huge on like personal branding content, but he didn't get to where he is now by posting organic content. Like he grew Gym Launch primarily through ads. He spent a lot of money on ads, and I remember speaking to him years ago when I was the head coach for a coaching company here in Australia. We focused on working with online PTs and trainers, and he was doing the offline stuff. So we often had referrals for each other. They were spending huge amounts on ads, right? Like that was how they were growing their business. That's how he got started. Sam Ovens, again, like with consulting.com, they were spending, I think they got to the point where they're spending like $1 million a month. They were spending huge amounts. Same with Frank Kern, right? And like these guys all run ads now. These guys are running ads. You probably see Hormozi's ads all the time for school.com. These guys partnered, they're running ads for school.com. Now, it's not to say that organic marketing and content isn't important. It's part of the ecosystem, but it's not the be all end all. And without ads, it is going to be very, very slow. Heard an interview last week with Gary Vee talking about this. And he's like, look, if you're under $1 million a year in your business, you should just run ads, because it is going to be very, very hard. Like, it is so competitive with organic marketing right now, because there's just so many creators flooding the platform. There's more content, just coming on the, this is very similar to coming on the platform all the time. Running ads, is just going to get you in front of a lot more eyeballs, which is what you need. However, with that being said, the problem with relying on direct response ads in 2024 especially is they are expensive to test. They're often all or nothing. Someone comes through, they buy or they die, or they book a call or they don't. It's diminishing returns as you scale. So you might have a campaign that's doing a 3x ROAS, like return on ad spend. Then you 10x the ad spend, and then all of a sudden it's a 1.5 return on ad spend. And you're just seeing nothing for that, and it doesn't compound. Right now, we're in a global recession, and people's buying patterns are different. People are more skeptical. People have become numb to claims without substance. So you've probably seen, partly because of Alex Hormozy, but you've probably seen loads and loads of bold claims on the internet over the years, like, hey, we'll guarantee you this result, or you don't pay, whatever it is. Like, that's just filled the marketplace with a lot of noise. People have been burnt. People have not got results. People are unhappy. And there's just more skepticism. And the fact that we are in a global recession and people's spending patterns are different means that people's risk tolerance is lower. So what does that mean? It means that we need to build relationships with people before we sell them. And I want to introduce you to a concept that I wrote this out years ago. I call it the hybrid funnel. And the premise of it is exactly the same as I used to teach and build for people. I just changed the front end, because I used to be very big on Facebook ads and Facebook groups. I've kind of replaced that with Instagram and YouTube instead. But the premise is the same. It's hybrid. You're combining the best of both worlds. You're combining the best of organic content marketing with direct response marketing. And let me just show you some details around this. So this is from Sabri Subri's book, Sell Like Crazy. If you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend it. But most people with direct response marketing are trying to sell or find the people who are like the buy now people, right? Which in his example, he says is like the top 3% of the market in any market. There's people who are they're actively looking for a solution. They're actively looking to invest. Those people are few and far between. And if you're trying to market to them, so is a lot of other people, and it is very hard to get the eyeballs. That's where these like bold claims and things come in. It's very expensive to market to. Next, you got like information gathering mode. This is where people are already problem aware, but they're trying to find out more details around how to solve their problem. And then you have problem aware. They just know they have this problem. They don't really know what to do about it. And then you have not problem aware. They're kind of just a bit, they have a problem, but they're just not, they're a bit oblivious. They don't really care about it right now. It's not a pressing pain point for them. And this is how I tie it into this funnel. So the 60% not problem aware, I just ignore that, right? Because eventually they will become problem aware and they'll ascend into this 20%. But right now, like, I don't want to waste money running ads to people who aren't problem aware. Like, what does that mean? I'm just going to entertain people for the sake of it. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. We want to run ads to people who are problem aware, this bottom of this pyramid. So we're meeting people where they're at in terms of their problems. Then what we're doing with our content and lead magnets is we're giving them the information that they're looking for, right? And through conversations, through market research, you'll know what people want, and you can just give them that, right? So like this video, for example, is like part of this process, right? Maybe you came through an ad on Instagram and got here through an email, like whatever. Maybe you are just finding me organically and you're just problem aware looking for information. But this video is designed for this. And then offers. So once people have watched enough of your content and they want to take a next step, you can send them an offer, right? I have an offer document that it's just a written document with what I do for people in my coaching. And I just send it to people. And it has like a full breakdown of everything I do, including pricing. And then sometimes I jump on a quick call with people just to make sure it's a good fit. And then that's how I sign clients. Like it's pretty straightforward. So that's just understanding the psychology behind this and how that works. So on the top end, when we're looking at ads, there's two types of ads you can run. There's profile ads. I'm sure you've seen these before. So where people are kind of driving you to their Instagram page, like, specific type of content for a specific type of person. And then your call to action is to get them to your Instagram page to follow you. And once they follow you, you can start a conversation. Usually the goal for this is like $1 to $2 a follow. I when I run these ads, I get like $1 a follow roughly, but like it's I would say like 1 in 3 people are relevant, because I do get people who are like appointment setters or video editors or whatever follow me because they see my ads and then try and pitch me in my DMs. So for me, I'm probably paying like over $5 for a profile or for a follow of a relevant person. Whereas when I run DM ads, and this is like one thing I'm really big on, if you have a good lead magnet, you can run this to a cold audience. It doesn't have to be retargeting. You can just run a DM ad. And the goal is below $10. Most of my clients do this, get this between like $3 and $5, depending on the market you're in. Like if you're B2C, you should be getting $3 leads for this. My ads right now are doing less than $5 US. They kind of fluctuate between $4 and $5, which for what I do is very good. But I have been running ads for a long time, like nearly 10 years now. So bear that in mind. But what I do with this is I get them to message me a keyword for access to the resource. Then what happens is I use ManyChat just to automate the first couple of messages, where somebody my bot will go in, ask them for their email. They'll put their email in, and then it will send it to my email autoresponder. And so I have like a 5-part email sequence that goes out. It sends them the resource and then sends them more content as well, to nurture people, as we talked about before, and build relationships. Cool. So next we have the 3 content systems. So your content ecosystem, you don't have to start with all 3 things. Like, as I said before, YouTube is something you can plug in later. That's fine. But I would definitely start with at least these 2, or Instagram and YouTube, like at least one of these 2 with Instagram. And a kind of rough like guideline on what I would be doing is like a daily reel or carousel, if you're big into like carousels, 3 to 5 stories daily, like on your, as in like actually on your stories. And then within your stories, post 1 lead magnet promo a week and 1 direct offer weekly, right? So a lead magnet might just be like, hey, I've put together this training, message me, lead magnet, and I'll send it across to you, right? And a direct offer is I'm opening spaces for this program, or I'm opening spaces for calls this week. Reach out and, for the details. This only works if you're posting regular content, right? Like if you just post an offer every week, but you're not posting stories and you're not posting content daily, then basically all you're doing is selling, right? Like one offer, when you're posting like 3 to 5 stories a day and a daily reel of like value, is a low percentage of what you're posting out. All right. Same with everything else you do. So with email, what I do is I generally put an offer in every email I put out, but it's like in the PS section at the bottom of the email. So the email itself will have content in it. It will usually look something like this, like story, insights, value, call to action. And sometimes the call to action is to go to a YouTube video, right? So it's not a call to action to work with me. It's just take another step, or go and take some sort of action. And then at the bottom, I'll have like an offer. Sometimes, every kind of 2 weeks, it's good to put out a direct offer. And you don't always have to have like a, hey, buy my program. It can be, I'm opening my diary for calls this week, and this call is for this type of person, for, who wants this type of help. All right. Or you could do one directly for your offer as well. And if you do that every 2 weeks, it means you've got a direct offer going out once for your program once a month, and then you've got a call offer going out once a month as well. YouTube, posting once or twice a week. Like, I'll be honest, I don't post twice a week. Like I'm trying to build up my consistency with YouTube to at least once a week, because I know the value of it. But like, this is where you can build a lot of depth, go deeper into your story, your methodology, and get people binging your content as well. Because sometimes people will opt in and they'll just go through like loads of my old videos and, stuff that I posted a year ago, and then reach out to me. Like I had a guy message me yesterday on Instagram, and he's like, just coming over from YouTube. I watched like loads of your content, and then ended up booking a call with him. So it's the power of YouTube. The other benefit to YouTube is it compounds over time. So with that example, some of the videos he'd watched, I posted 8 months ago, but they're still kind of trending now. Like they're not viral by any means, but for like this very niche corner of the internet, they've got a couple of thousand views, so they're growing. And then lastly, we've got the one offer. So the 2 ways of you promoting your offer is publicly and privately. Like publicly, as I said, you can promote this on every email. Like just at the end of your email, if you have like what's called like a PS section. So after you sign off your email with your name, you can say PS, by the way, if you want to find out more about working together, message me the word coaching or reply with the word coaching or click this link and it can take them to, a video breaking down your offer. You can do it at the end of every YouTube video or just in the description of a YouTube video. And then you can also do it weekly on Instagram and your stories promoting an offer. And as I said before, the more content you post, the more offers you can make, because it's, as Gary Vee always says, like it's and literally wrote a book on it, like jab, 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 right hook. It's like your jabs is the content, your right hook is the offer. And you don't want to just be right hooking all the time because you'll just exhaust the audience. You want to be building up reciprocity and then putting offers out. And then privately is every conversation should be leading to sending an offer as long as they're a fit, right? Like if you're having a conversation, you're like, this person's obviously not a good fit to work with me, I can't help them, or they're just like some weirdo, then you're not going to send them an offer. But if you're having conversations on Instagram with the leads that are coming in, which you should be doing, then those should be flowing towards an offer. And that's how, you can consistently get 10 calls booked a week with qualified people as well. So not with people who like don't understand what it is that you do. They're like really qualified, and it's going to make your sales process so much easier and scaling so much easier. So let me just dive into here. So when this is set up correctly, you don't need to spend huge amounts. It compounds over time. You get flow and it becomes second nature. Like creating content can feel hard after a while, but like one thing I really focus on with clients is getting tuned into their message and creating simple frameworks to create content from. You're creating lasting assets, especially with YouTube, and you're building the foundations to scale further, right? A lot of people, they want to hit 20K, but the thing is, once you hit 20K and you've done it using a system as well, like a repeatable system, you can scale that thing up to the next level. So what you need right now, more than likely, is momentum, right? If you've been stuck for a little while, you've probably lost that momentum. Things are feeling hard. You probably need consistency because you're probably doing stuff inconsistently. You probably need clarity because even if you are doing stuff consistently, it might not be the right things. You probably need accountability because you're stuck in your head just questioning everything all the time. Maybe you're just like jumping over to one idea to the next, never doing anything consistently. You probably need systems because, you're doing a lot of stuff, but it's not really building anything. And chances are you probably need support. You need someone to actually like help you with some of this stuff. And if that's the case and you want to get rocking fast, then click the link below in this video and book a marketing audit with myself. There'll be a few questions to fill out just to make sure that you qualify for this. But on that call, we'll do a deep dive into your personal brand, into your marketing, everything you're doing, your offer, and map out a game plan together. And that will be a super useful call for you. You will get a ton of value from it. Obviously, I have an offer that I'm selling. So I will tell you this right now. Like I have a few spaces available. As I'm making this video, I have a few spaces available, but it's not, the barrier to entry is quite low, right? Like it's definitely not cheap. And my price, I'm not going to say my price because I am kind of in the process of changing that, but I have a weekly payment option, meaning like you don't need to drop 10 grand to work with me. Like you can work with me for a few $100s and get started and get some momentum, and then it just pays for itself. A lot of my clients come on and they make sales in the first week because the first thing we do is we actually script out their offer first. We get clear on the messaging in their offer. We get their offer out to their existing audience, whether that's on Instagram, email list, wherever your audience is already. And usually, I've paid for myself in the first week, right? So hopefully that's the goal for you. Again, this is for people who already have one-to-one clients. Like you are already coaching people, you are good at sales, like you're not a beginner, you're looking to grow things further. If not, then hopefully you got a ton of value from this video training. Make sure to, leave any comments if you have any questions. Hit subscribe if you're not already, or always appreciate that. And I'll see you on the next one. Much love.